So right now, the 30-year US Treasury, which is simply a bond issued by the US government, is yielding more than 5%. Now you might be thinking, 5%, big deal, why should I care? Well, it sort of is a big deal and you should care, and here is why. The last time the 30-year Treasury was at this level was 2007, almost 20 years ago. Now this video isn't about financial market news, and I really want to move on very quickly to how you can use this information to your investing advantage, but I also want to quickly touch on several reasons why yields have risen and may continue to rise, and more importantly, how exactly that affects you. So what's happening is that investors are demanding more and more compensation because of concerns around government borrowing. As we speak, the US government debt has hit over $40 trillion, and the interest on this debt is around 2.3 million every single minute. That means that by the end of this video, interest owed would have increased by around $25 million. Secondly, inflation is very sticky and very stubborn, and it has remained above the US Federal Reserve's 2% target. And thirdly, there is a huge amount of debt coming into the market, hundreds of billions of dollars, especially from big tech companies like Meta, Amazon, and Alphabet. Now, all of these factors, amongst others, have led to higher yields. And this is where it affects you directly. You see, higher yields translate into higher mortgage costs and also higher borrowing rates for consumers, as well as higher costs of capital for companies. Now, the US government recognizes that this is a prevailing problem, and they are currently trying to intervene and manage things through a project called Operation Twist. This is essentially a central bank monetary policy where short-term government bonds are sold while simultaneously buying long-term government bonds. The goal here is to lower the long-term rates and flatten the yield curve. But here's the thing, economic experts are saying that this is just a short-term measure and it's not sustainable. Now, having said all that, this is where you can really benefit. Because while rising bond yields can sound like bad news, if you are buying rather than selling bonds, higher yields have an upside. You're being paid considerably more to lend your money. And I know this because bonds are a beloved part of my own portfolio. And I also manage portfolios of tens of millions of dollars worth of bonds for my clients over the years. Now, before we jump in, if you haven't watched my Bonds for Beginners video, watch that after this one. It is a detailed coverage on bonds, what bonds are, the pros and cons, and the different types of bonds. But in this video, I'm going to show you 6 strategies or 6 ways to invest in bonds right now, including the exact strategy I use myself. So let's start with that. Okay, so this is my strategy. This is the one that I use in my portfolio, and it's one that I believe is very well suited for retirement. A bond ladder means that instead of putting all of your money into one bond that matures, say, in 10 years, you spread it across different bonds that mature at different times according to your cash flow needs. So for example, one bond could mature in 1 year, another one in 2 years, in 3 years, 4 years, and so on. Each of these is a step or a rung in your ladder. Typically, when a bond matures, you get your original money back, assuming, of course, that the bond issuer does not default and actually makes the promised interest payments along the way and bullet payments at the end of the bond's life. So using a 1-year interval as an example, every year another rung matures. You can spend that money if you need the income, or you can reinvest it into a brand new 5-year bond at the end of the ladder. And when you do this, you've effectively created a steady cycle of money coming back to you. And this becomes particularly interesting when yields are relatively high. This is because you can lock in yields across different maturities without putting all your money into the market at one time. If yields rise next year, you'll soon have another rung maturing that can be reinvested at those higher rates. And if yields fall, well, some of those longer runs are still earning the yields that you've locked in earlier. And this gives you protection either way, without requiring you to predict exactly where interest rates are going. That's one reason bond ladders can be particularly helpful for someone approaching retirement or already in retirement. And it is a big reason why I myself enjoy having one. And I've set mine up in a way that I receive at least quarterly coupons. So I know exactly when my bonds mature and I have cash coming back to me on a rolling basis. Now, having said that, there are some drawbacks with this strategy. The first one is that it does take more time to manage. You need to select the bonds with different maturities and reinvest them as each rung matures. And secondly, you are exposed to something called reinvestment risk. If interest rates fall, unfortunately, the bonds that mature around that period have to be reinvested at lower yields. The next strategy is the barbell strategy. Now picture an actual barbell, weights on both ends and very little in the middle. With bonds, this means putting some of your money into shorter dated or short-term bonds, perhaps 2 to 3 years, and some into longer dated bonds, maybe 20 to 30 years, while largely skipping the middle bit. And the reason an investor may choose this strategy is because the two sides do different jobs. Your short-term bonds give you flexibility, so your money comes back relatively quickly, so if yields rise, you can reinvest those at higher rates. And the long end or the long-term sides allows you to effectively lock in today's yields for much longer. Typically, the yield curve is upward sloping, which means that investors demand a premium for holding longer dated bonds, or the market expects interest rates to be higher in the future due to economic growth perhaps, or maybe even higher inflation. But there is an important trade-off that you need to be aware of. So if you watched my previous video, you'll recall that bonds have an inverse relationship with interest rates. So when interest rates rise, bond prices fall. And I explained this relationship in great detail in the previous video, which I will link below. But what you need to know is that long-term bonds are more sensitive or have a higher sensitivity to changes in interest rates. If interest rates rise sharply, the market value of those bonds can fall significantly. Now, not to get too technical, but I think this is important to say. Bonds have something called duration, which is the measure of their interest rate sensitivity. So if rates rise by 1%, a bond with a 5-year duration loses about 5% of its value. And if rates drop by 1%, its prices rise by roughly 5%. Now, this is specifically the modified duration. You have the Macaulay duration, you have an effective duration, but we're not getting into all of that. Anyway, because the barbell strategy has longer dated bonds within it, it isn't automatically safer than a laddered portfolio. It's simply a deliberate way of combining short-term flexibility with long-term income, rather than concentrating everything in one maturity range. Okay, so building a ladder of individual bonds can sound like a lot of work and a lot of admin. Well, it sort of is, because you're having to manage it yourself and you have to keep on top of timing, choosing new bonds, and the entire investment process. If this isn't your thing, which I completely understand, there's a simpler option. You can use bond ETFs and bond index funds, and I'll give you some great examples of these in a little while. But just like stock ETFs, instead of buying individual bonds yourself, you buy one fund that might hold hundreds, sometimes even thousands of different bonds across different maturities and different issuers. You get instant diversification, and you can buy and sell a bond ETF through a broker just like a stock ETF. But again, there is an important trade-off that you need to be aware of. With an individual bond that you hold to maturity, you know the date that the principal is due to come back to you, assuming, of course, the issuer pays as promised. But a conventional bond fund doesn't really work that way. The fund itself may never mature, in which case it continually buys and sells bonds. So you lose that specific feature of an individual bond, which is, I get my principal back on this date. But if you value simplicity and you don't want to manage a collection of bonds manually, funds and ETFs can be a very practical way to get bond exposure. You can even invest in them regularly each month, much like you would with an equity index fund. So as promised, here are a few well-known examples you can pause and research yourself. All have yields over 4.6%, but don't just pick the one with the highest yield. A higher yield can come with additional risk. TLT, for example, currently has the highest yield here. But because it holds very long dated bonds, as we discussed, its price is also much more sensitive to changes in interest rates. Okay, so this next strategy is really about protecting your money from losing purchasing power if inflation rises. As I mentioned before, inflation has been very stubborn and sticky and has stayed above the 2% target in the US, in the UK, as well as in Europe. So if you, like some investors, are worried about inflation rising from this never-ending global conflict, you may want to look into TIPS, which is Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And if you're in the UK, you would be looking at index-linked gilts. We'll talk about gilts a little later. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between TIPS and a normal fixed-rate bond? And why might you choose TIPS over a normal bond? Well, a normal fixed rate bond might continue paying you the exact amount whilst the cost of everything around you is rising. So you're receiving your interest payments, but the money is buying less and less as inflation increases, right? So this is where TIPS really shine. With TIPS, for example, the principal value adjusts with inflation. So if inflation rises, the principal value rises as well, and the interest you receive can increase as well. So even though TIPS pay a fixed rate, similar to a normal bond, because the rate is multiplied by the inflation adjusted principal, your actual dollar payout increases when inflation rises. So think of TIPS as more of an insurance or a hedge against inflation. And you don't necessarily need to own your entire bond portfolio as TIPS. You could simply make inflation protection one part of your broader bond portfolio, or even one section of your ladder, as we discussed earlier. Okay, so number 5 is really about looking beyond safe bonds or government bonds. And I know that a lot of investors enjoy the peace of mind and the safety that comes from government bonds. But if you are looking to maybe take a little bit more risk, you've got other options. You also have corporate bonds, and this is where you are lending to companies instead of governments, or rather than governments. And we are currently seeing a major wave of corporate bond issuances, as I mentioned earlier, particularly from large technology companies funding their enormous AI build-out. Some of the biggest hyperscalers have already raised close to $200 billion through the bond markets this year. And this creates more bonds for investors to choose from and potentially attractive yields. But remember, the more you move away from government bonds or safer bonds, you're taking on more and more credit risk. Again, this is all detailed in the last video I posted, and it's linked below. And this is really the principle here. The strategy isn't necessarily to choose one type of bond, it's to blend them deliberately. So government bonds can provide stability and high credit quality, and investment grade corporate bonds or sub-investment grade corporate bonds can potentially give you additional yields. And in some countries, you may even get favorable tax treatments depending on your tax bracket, the tax laws in the country, if you invest in certain municipal bonds, for example. And that's an additional attractive upside. So in this strategy, you're not only diversifying by bond maturity or when your bonds mature, you're also diversifying by who owes you money. And if you want to take it one step further and you are a risk seeker, you may even invest in international bonds that have much higher yields. But again, these come with increased credit risk. Okay, so moving on nicely from the fifth strategy, everything I explained earlier about US Treasuries also has a UK cousin, and they are called gilts, and they offer fairly decent yields. So with gilts, you are loaning money or lending money to the UK government. They pay you an interest and they repay the principal at maturity, and this is subject to the terms of the bond. You can use gilts to build the same kind of ladder we talked about earlier. Buy gilts with different maturity dates and you have money scheduled to come back to you at different points in the future. There is also a UK-specific tax perk that is really worth knowing about gilts. Gains on gilts are exempt from capital gains tax. Hallelujah, we get something. So if you buy a low coupon gilt below its £100 redemption value, for example, and you hold it to maturity, that capital gain uplift can be particularly tax efficient. Now, the interest itself can be subject to income tax if the gilt is held outside a tax wrapper, but the capital gain is exempt from CGT or capital gains tax. Now, I can't tell you which particular gilts to buy. It all depends on your timeline, your tax position, and what you actually want the bonds to do for you. But here are 4 gilts you can use as a starting point for your own research, each with a different maturity. Now, one important point to remember here is that, for example, the 4.75% in the name is the coupon. It isn't the yield you receive when you buy it. That depends on the price you pay. Again, all detailed in the previous video and it's linked below. So there you have it, 6 different ways to think about or approach bond investing. And if you own a bond portfolio or are currently thinking about owning one, I would really love to hear what your approach to this is. And if you are thinking, well, okay, bonds sound interesting and good, but I really want more options, I share the video on 10 ways to invest $1,000 and I will link it below. Every week, I share videos on personal investing made easy. If that sounds good to you and you aren't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and I will see you in the next one.